This webinar hosted by Just Systems Canada, makers of XMetaL. My name is Tom McGleary, and I'm an XML technology specialist with Just Systems. Before we get started, I'd like to cover just a few of the usual housekeeping items. We will be recording this webinar, and the recording will be available afterwards. After the webinar, you'll receive a follow-up email with details about how you can download the recording. Audio is disabled for attendees during the presentation. If you have questions during the session, please type them into the questions panel, which is located in the GoToWebinar control panel, and we will be answering questions at the end of the session. If you have any problems with the presentation itself, audio or video, type them into the chat box and we will try to help if we can. So one of the things that has made DITA a popular choice of XML language for structured authoring is the availability of the DITA Open Toolkit for publishing various forms of output. But one significant difficulty you may face using the DITA Open Toolkit is changing the look and feel of your output using XSL style sheets. Modifying XSL requires a certain degree of programming ability, which, whether you have the expertise in-house or hire a consultant, can sometimes exceed either your capabilities or your budget. But the DITA OT is not the only option for publishing with DITA. In today's webinar, we'll show you one alternative, TopLeaf, from Turnkey Systems. In fact, TopLeaf is not only for DITA, but works with any XML document type. But in the demos we'll be showing, you will see how the XMetaL plugin from Turnkey is neatly integrated in XMetaL into the familiar DITA dialogues for generating output. With us today as speakers are Jeff Maynard from Turnkey Systems and John Barker from Metaformix Information Systems, who is the North American distributor for TopLeaf. And with that, I'd like to turn the presentation over to John.
Thanks, Tom. As Tom said, TopLeaf is one publishing engine that integrates quite easily with XMetaL through a plugin. We'll be showing you that today. TopLeaf from Turnkey Systems has been sold and supported in North America by Metaformix Information Systems since 1999. But first I have to ask, what is easy DITA publishing? Easy can mean different things to different people, but I think most people would agree that software systems that are easy to use are intuitive. You don't need a lot of time learning the software to start using it productively. They don't require any special care, and they will continue to operate on their hardware and software operating system platforms for many years, even after those OSs may be obsoleted or go through numerous upgrades. And they don't require a lot of specialized knowledge to make them do what you need them to do. But together, these easy aspects are still only part of the equation. An app on your phone may be easy to use, but if it doesn't do anything that you need it to do, or you can't use it at all, then its ease of use is irrelevant. And a piece of easy-to-use software that is 1,000 times more expensive than you can afford is of no use at all, regardless of how easy it is. So easy, to me, needs to be combined with these other factors to make a software solution practical. It needs to produce correct professional results, and it must be affordable. So altogether, a DITA publishing system should deliver the output you require with professional results, what you need when you need it, by being easy to use, intuitive, low maintenance, and long-lived, and by being affordable. It fits within your tight budget. So now we have to ask, what do I mean when I say professional results? Well, first, the ability to be flexible enough to meet the styling requirements of a wide range of document layout needs, either within one organization or across multiple organizations and industries. The system needs to be flexible to respond to your document layout requirements as they may change over time. As an example, TopLeaf is currently used in transportation, industries and organizations, legislative and regulatory applications, healthcare organizations, environmental auditing applications, and a wide range of technical document applications, including software technical manuals, data sheets, and so on. Next, in order to produce professional results, the system must be able to provide the ability to collaborate effectively. Your publishing energy should be spent on proofing and correcting content instead of constantly fiddling with output format. because the rendered output is a byproduct of the DITA data, easy to regenerate when needed, in whatever form is needed. Every content author or editor should be able to trust that the rendered result is going to be reliably generated without having to worry about whether his or her particular DITA doc. And of course, the rendered output should be able to show where content differences occur from previous versions, so that it's easy to see what has changed since the previous edition was released. As well, it should be able to satisfy both electronic and paper markets when necessary to support the traditional requirements of book publishing, such as features with data-driven headers, footers, footnotes, release information, dictionary headers, variable data, and so on. And TopLeaf provides all of those capabilities and more. So now I'd like to bring in Jeff Maynard, the Senior Software Manager for Turnkey Systems, to demonstrate how easy styling and rendering DITA documents is with TopLeaf and XMetaL.
Thank you, John. And today I'm going to talk about TopLeaf, how TopLeaf publishes DITA. So TopLeaf can be used as a standalone workstation, as a component in a fully automated publishing system, or embedded within an XML editing environment. As Tom said earlier, TopLeaf provides a complete solution for transforming DITA content to your required styling and output format, all from within the XMetaL publishing framework. In TopLeaf, a single style sheet can be used to produce output in several different formats, each with a consistent style. Layout and style information is managed using specialized tools that guide you through the process of style sheet development. No programming expertise is required. And the TopLeaf previewer makes it easy to see the result of each change. Because TopLeaf works with a transformed copy of your data, it isn't necessary to run the Open Toolkit after applying each style sheet change. The TopLeaf Change Compose preview cycle leads to fast, low-cost style sheet development. So let's see where TopLeaf fits within the XMetaL publishing environment. So here we have a DITA document that I've opened in XMetaL, and I'll just go through the integration of TopLeaf within that environment. XMetaL uses the DITA Open Toolkit to transform DITA maps into output deliverables. The TopLeaf XMetaL plugin extension adds TopLeaf deliverables for PDF, EPUB, and other formats. This makes it easy to create output directly from an open map or topic. So when we want to create an output format, you can see we can select the TopLeaf plugin extension I've added. It lets us select from, I've set up two output types. I've got an EPUB and a PDF output type. And I can select and generate that TopLeaf deliverable. If I have a look at the configured output, you can see that the output has a style sheet assigned to it, and I can, in this particular case, I can assign and declare a set of PDF profiling options for controlling and configuring the PDF output that I'm going to build. So I'll just build the PDF using the XMetaL plugin. You can assign a unique or shared style sheet to any of these deliverable types and set the output specific formattings. The XMetaL plugin is running TopLeaf and calls the Open Toolkit to merge the DITA content and resolve linkages within the content. Now, use a default styling sheet to format the output, and these style sheet rules, as I said, installed when you install the TopLeaf plugin. If you need to modify this style sheet, then TopLeaf provides a set of tools that guide you through the development process of style sheet modifications and creation. The style sheet toolkit can be accessed from XMetaL by configuring the TopLeaf output deliverable. I'll just close the PDF. We'll go back to the output deliverable dialog, and we'll configure the TopLeaf PDF. So in addition to setting up the style sheets, and here you can see what I've done, we have these two basic style sheets are installed with TopLeaf. I've copied one of those to specifically for a style sheet for this document. And from here we can launch the TopLeaf workstation, which provides access to the style sheet development tools. Now within the workstation, what we have is a previewer to the rendered paged output from the transformation that we just ran from XMetaL. So here we can see the cover page, and I can step through the pages to inspect and prove the rendered output. So within the workstation, I've got options to rebuild or recompose the transform content. I can create outputs for PDF, RTF, HTML, and EPUB from this previewer. This gives me a way of quickly seeing how the style sheet rules are being applied to those alternative formats without having to go back into XMetaL. And we also have access to a number of style sheet development tools here. So we've got two components in this TopLeaf style sheet. We have a set of styling rules which are used to format the content of the document, and we have a set of page layouts which are used to shape how that content appears on your page. So first up, I'm going to just have a look at the page layouts that we used in this data. You can see here what I'm looking at is a one-column layout. Now in this document we have right and left pages. We've got page mirroring. So the page layout editors showing the right and left page organization. On each page we have headers and footers. These correspond to this region up here. There's nothing on this page, but we can have content put into that header. Here's a header rule. This is a header rule. Here's the footer. This is the corresponding footer and footer rule. I can select, and by selecting a block on the page, I can adjust the position on the page by dragging the block around, or I can remove blocks. So I can remove this rule. I want to remove the header and footer rules. You can also see that the layouts we have any number of layouts in this we can work on. We can create new ones. We've got a few which come standard. Here, the one-column layout is defined as a A4 page size, but I can change that here to any of the standard sizes or a custom size if I want. Just change that to letter. Page is adjusted automatically. Again, we have a cover page here. I'll just switch to the cover page in the previewer. This is the cover page as previewed. Here's the corresponding cover page layout. You can see that there's a block here on the front page for the logo. This publisher details are located in this block. And this yellow region here is what we call the data region. That's where the content of the document will be rendered. So on every page type you usually have a data region, and that's where the content is coming from, the data from the document that we're rendering. So here the title using World Time Pro, that's come from the data that's been rendered in this region here. Again, I can change and set the page type size to match the single column layout, so we're looking at a letter size, and I can select a block, the logo block, and this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to resize that block so that it covers the entire page. So what I want to have is really a background logo on the title cover page. So making those changes, I can then save the changes and recompose the content from the previewer. You can see that the logo has been repositioned on the page, and we can also see that the pages now reflect the changes to the style sheet. They're actually set in the letter size page layout. The header rules and footer rules are now removed, and the content's been re-rendered to match the page style changes I've made to the layouts. So going back to the cover page, what I'm going to show you next is how we change the styling rules of the content that we render on each page. Let's close the layout editor and back into the TopLeaf previewer. We'll now look at the stylesheet mapping editor. Now the mappings editor, as I said, it determines the characteristics of the content of regions on the page, say headers and footers, and also the content of the tagged information within your data. You can see we have a set of styling rules for all of the elements within your content. In addition to that, we have styling rules for the fixed regions on the page, what we call the fixed block regions for the headers and footers. So here we have a rule, cover image. This cover image rule corresponds to the content of the fixed block region that was used to position the image on the page for the cover. In the customization for that rule, we can see that what TopLeaf is doing is it's referencing an external logo. This is just a default logo that comes with the style sheet. If we want to change that to something more specific for this data, what we do is we import a style sheet image into the style sheet, and we then assign that image name to this command to retrieve that image from the style sheet itself, from style sheet folders. We save the change, recompose the content, and the the cover page has now been restyled using that cover page image. You can see it's been expanded to cover the entire page. As if we wanted to, we can use the page layout editor to control the size and position of that logo on that page if we need to. Now going back to styling up the content, we have a special rule in the style sheet mapping editor which is called $document. The $document rule sets the default styles for the content of the document. So if we wanted to, we could set a default paragraph style here. You see this goes back to page 6. You can see that currently we're rendering this content as ragged left. The $document mapping, I can change that to fully justified. I can also change the fonts. So this document is currently set as Times New Roman, but if I want to change that to something else, I can just change that to Arial. I can increase the point size slightly and add a small leading to space out the line content. Save those style sheet changes, recompose the content. You can see what I'm doing every time I'm making a style sheet change. I don't have to rebuild or reconstruct the DITA document from the DITA map and relink it all. I'm just using the transform content that we made in the first instance from XMetaL. So now the page layouts have been assigned with the default of Arial to the rest of the document. You can see on this page we've also got a table. I can control the default table styles from the $document mapping as well. So here the table style that we're using is basically just a simple boxed frame table. I can add a header fill, so I'll just add a pastel fill. And if I want to, I can change the color of the rules. Certainly these are characteristics of the tables which can't usually or are not usually included in the data, and we just apply them from the styling rules. So I'll give that a navy blue rule frame. Save the changes, recompose the content, and the table style has been applied. And that will be the default table style applied to each table in this document. Right, so that's how we can set up a default styling for the rule, but what about if we want to target styles within the content itself? So, for example, if I wanted to find the styling, we've got a lot of styling rules here. If I want to find the specific styling rule for this content, and I don't know the tag, how can I do that? Well, we've got an additional tool called in the Stylesheet Development Kit called the Mapping Assistant. And what the Mapping Assistant does is it gives us two views of the content. It gives us, on the left here, we have a view of the structure or the rules applied to the structure of the document. So if you know the tag that you want to style, you can locate that using the structure view. You can see here, this is the content I want to style. On the left here, we've got a preview window which provides a preview or a simplified preview of the styling rules that have been applied to the content in the data. So if I can navigate through the document using the structure or using the content preview. So if I select this text here using the fraction converter, you can see it's been styled as a level 1 title. That's the styling rule that's been applied from TopLeaf. Double click on that, we go back to the mapping editor. You can see now we're looking at the level 1 title styling rule. If I want to change the font on that, you can see it's currently it's set as bold, 16 point. I can change that to bold italic. I can apply a color. So let's set that as navy blue. And here you notice that each styling rule has a number of characteristics. We can trigger styling off the start tag or the end tag. I'm going to add a horizontal rule off underneath each of these level 1 titles. Save the changes, recompose the content, and that styling change has been applied not only to the selected title that I located in the mapping assistant, but also to all level 1 titles in that content. I go back into the mapping assistant and I'll just refresh the content of the preview window. You can see that the mapping assistant has updated the styling displayed in the previewer to match the changes that I've made in the data. So what I've done here is styled up an existing rule for a title content. If I want to say apply a new box style to this content here, this is actually an example. So if I select that in the preview window, you can see it's selected the example block. So that block there is currently styled as an open frame box. I'd like to change that open frame box to something a little bit more visual in this page. So I'm going to just select the content in the preview component of the mapping assistant, select the rule, the example rule. Now on the start tag for this example block, you can see the TopLeaf has got the rules are saying apply start a box. And on the end tag, the rules are saying end the box. And here we have the same tabs we saw on the $document mapping. We have a tables style and we also have the box style. Now what we're going to do here is TopLeaf is currently using the box style information from the $document mapping. It's inheriting that style from that mapping. I'm going to override that style and apply a local style for this content only, just for the example text. Here I'm going to give this a pastel fill, and we can control the frame of the box from this drop down. So I'm going to turn off the frame. I'm going to add a small amount of space above the table, above the box, and apply a small indent within the content of the box. Save the changes, recompose the content, and the box has been styled. Now, I don't want that, in this case I don't want the example box to have the Arial typeface. I'm going to override that font and reset that back as Times New Roman. Save the changes, recompose the content, and the style of the box has been applied. So that's how we style up a couple of existing rules, setting the defaults for the document style, overwriting the rules that are supplied in the default mapping set. Now what happens if I want to adjust the styling for content that isn't styled? So we go back into the mapping assistant. We have a look at this component here, this word convert here. The mapping assistant is showing this element in italic, that implies or means that the tag content itself hasn't got a specific styling rule for it in the mapping style sheet. So if we want to apply a style to that, we can just create a mapping for that content. Create the mapping back in the mapping editor. We've got a new rule now for the UE control. And when a rule is created by TopLeaf, by default it creates what we call a block mapping rule. TopLeaf basically has two kinds of mapping rules. We have a block mapping rule, which is more like much like a paragraph. It sort of basically has a paragraph before and after, and we have an inline mapping rule, which is essentially it's how we style up content within the context of a paragraph. So, and then a couple of other types here. List item and label are just specialized block mapping rule types, which are commonly used in layouts. So what we're going to do here is set the UE control to be an inline mapping because we want this to sit within the paragraph. And I'm going to change the styling for this content to something that will be make it a bit visible in the data when it's rendered, make it green. And we're going to add what we call a customization. A customization allows us to inject additional material into the content stream that's being processed by TopLeaf. So we can add content before the content of the element that we're mapping, and we can add content after the content of the element that we're mapping. We can also inject additional structured content into the rendered stream, so that if we wanted to style up something like a prefix, we wanted to add in something before the content, we could add some customized content that would be generated by TopLeaf, and then we could style that up independently. But what we're going to do here is a relatively simple customization. We're just going to add a double left arrow and a double right arrow to surround the content of this tag. So what I'll do is to do that I just step into the pre-content box, and I'm going to add this. This is a character that's not easily keyed by from the keyboard, so I'm just going to use the Alt key on my keyboard to drop this in. So there's the opening bracket and the corresponding close bracket. So that content is going to be enclosed, or it's going to wrap the content of the tag when we render it. So we save the change, recompose the content, and you can see I'll just enlarge this bit. You can see that the UE controls throughout the document have been restyled. So here we have just a standard UE control inline within the paragraph. This UE control here is obviously within a container element that has set a bold typeface, and so it's inherited that bold typeface from the container that it's in, and in addition it's applied the typesetting effects that are required by the mapping for the UE control block. Right, so one of the other characteristics of the TopLeaf is that it recognizes the characteristics of the DITA content itself. So when it can't locate a styling rule for an element name, TopLeaf will use the DITA inheritance information declared in the element's class attributes to select a mapping that when it renders the content, selecting a mapping that describes how the element should be processed. So if we go back into the mapping assistant, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you how we search for some content through the preview. So we can identify and locate content in our output by either using the structure view, scrolling through here, or we've got a text search that we can apply to locate content. So here I'm going to search for some text. I'm looking for Windows P. So this content here that I'm looking for is actually not on this page, it's on the next page. So if I just step forward here, see I'm looking for this content here within the output. Now that content there is actually a step result, but because there isn't a step result mapping in the layout, in the mapping set, I'll just show you that. You can see there's no step result mapping here. What TopLeaf has done is it's selected it selected the, it's looked at the item groups tag, and it's recognized that it can use the class attribute to select the item group mapping instead for the step result. Now, if I want to override that, what you see here is this is the current element that's being mapped. This is the mapping rule that's been applied to that element. If I want to override that rule and create a mapping for a step result, TopLeaf has tracked the structure of the document, and so I can say I want to create a step result mapping based on the existing item group mapping. So it's going to use the same style in the first instance, and then I'm going to configure that to the styling that I want. Now TopLeaf's created a new rule for the step result. And what I'll do here is I'm going to just add a prefix to this step result so we can see it stand out in the content when we render it. Now, I'm going to add, in this case, an arrowhead character that is certainly a Unicode code point, but it's not in the standard character set. So I've got a number of ways I can put this content into the custom box. I can either use something like the character map editor to locate that character and then copy it and paste it in, or I can use the Unicode code point value and type that in directly if I want. So I'm going to just use the Unicode code point, type in the code point directly. So that's the arrowhead that I want. That's the character I'm going to insert. Again, as pre-content in this styling rule. Save the changes, recompose the content, and you can see that now the step result mapping has been applied for a step result. So having done those changes, I'm going to go back now to XMetaL. Here I am back editing the deliverable type. I'm going to pop back out of that and out of that, and I'm going to regenerate this PDF document. So I'm going to replace the document we just made at the beginning of the demonstration. And this is the first time I've done this since we made all of those style sheet changes. So now this shows you how we can speed up the process of style sheet development by minimizing the number of times we have to rebuild the DITA content, reconstruct or reassemble the DITA content, apply all the linkages in that content so that TopLeaf can then work with the resulting content. So we open up the file, and you can see here's my cover page styled, and the page is styled as per the styling rules that I applied. So here's the box example, the UE control blocks, the step items, and I think and so through the document we can see that it's all been styled as been applied in the table. So here's the table style that we've applied. So all the styling rules have been applied to the content, and we can now render them in the PDFs. So one of the other things, though, that we can use with TopLeaf is that the single style sheet can be used to render other formats. So go back into the generated output types that we have here. We've got a PDF type. We've also got an EPUB output that I've set up. So if I have a look at the configured output for this, go into the editor deliverable, you can see that this is using the same style sheet that we were working on for the PDF. And we can also go back, if we want to make style sheet changes, we can access that style sheet in the same way through this deliverable type. Because I don't need to do that because I've just made all the changes. What I'm going to do now is make the EPUB output using the same style sheet that we modified and built for the PDF. So XMetaL is going to assemble the DITA content and apply all the DITA linkages, and now we've built the EPUB by TopLeaf's been invoked from XMetaL. It's now rendered the content to an EPUB. Let's open up an EPUB viewer, and here's the EPUB output for the document showing the same style, and it'll be applied in the for the PDF, the level 1 titles, the step items, example box, and table styles. So that brings me to the end of the demonstration, and thank you for your time, and I'll just pass back to John to wrap up.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay, so now we come to the last aspect of practical publishing, affordability. TopLeaf has a range of licensing options, from single-user DITA publishing up to full-blown enterprise publishing servers with built-in loose leaf and release management capabilities. Everything you've seen demonstrated today is available using the TopLeaf Essential license, which gives you practical and easy DITA publishing for documents of up to 300 pages for only $799 US. Now, TopLeaf for DITA also has an even more affordable pricing option for groups where multiple people produce documents but only one person is tasked with styling them. In this case, you only need to buy one TopLeaf Essential license and one TopLeaf Essential user license, which provides TopLeaf use for up to 4 users, also for $799 US. And remember, the TopLeaf plugin for XMetaL is a free download. You can download an evaluation copy of TopLeaf and the plugin and get started with TopLeaf today for free. Any styles you develop can be used in your production environment as soon as you purchase a license key. So to sum up what we've looked at today, TopLeaf provides a practical and easy publishing solution when used with XMetaL. It produces professional results, is easy to use, and is affordable. TopLeaf easily integrates with XMetaL through a plugin which is downloadable for free from the TopLeaf website. Within the TopLeaf styling environment, it's easy to locate specific content instances that need styling modification and to then style those instances. Using the TopLeaf workstation, it's easy to iteratively and interactively style a DITA document, recompose to test the changes, and then when ready, run the transformation scenario from XMetaL. Once the styles for a particular publication type have been completed, it's easy to deploy them to additional users or onto a publication server or another workstation running TopLeaf simply by copying the style files. While TopLeaf does not require XMetaL to operate, if you are currently using XMetaL or if you're considering XMetaL, you can extend its publishing capabilities with TopLeaf to create a truly easy-to-use DITA publishing system. So now I'd like to bring in Tony Stevens, also from Turnkey Systems, to take any questions that have come up during the webinar. Tony?
Okay, thank you, John. Yes, we have a couple of questions here. Can a transform be created for Suite Help? I'm not familiar with that, but if it is an HTML-based format, then what we can do with our transforms is to add extra output types using a plugin system. So that's certainly something we could look at. So perhaps you'd like to contact us directly and we can give you some more information. Another question is, what if you have 5,000 page documents? Well, John described the Essential license there, which is the entry-level version. We have a range of licensing options, and you can certainly one of those has unlimited page numbers. And we have a question, is that $7.99 times 2? There's 2 different $7.99s there. One is for a person who needs to develop style sheets, and the other one is for any people who just want to run run TopLeaf to create output, and that's up to 4 people on that $7.99. There's another question, can you publish documents that are longer than 300 pages? That's the same as before. Can we transform to S1000D? Well, S1000D is actually an input format rather than an output format. It might be possible, but it's not really what TopLeaf is designed for. It's designed for creating output to be consumed rather than source content. Okay. Do you have any other questions? One person asked, what if I want to use an image from the document on the cover? Yeah, that's a good question. What we showed you is using an image that was actually stored in the style sheet. Oftentimes you'll actually have a reference to a cover image in the DITA map, say. We didn't show you much on what can be done with the custom content, but one of the things you could do there is to extract an image reference from the metadata, say, store it in a variable, and then use that variable on the cover page. Are right-to-left language supported as well? Yes, definitely. We support Hebrew and Arabic. And I think that's all the questions for the moment. But if anyone else has any thoughts about this subsequently, please feel free to contact us and we'll get back to you. Oh, one last question here. Do you support Japanese? Yes, we do. All that's required is a suitable font for creating the output. Do you have style sheets for FDA submissions? Well, I have to confess that as an Australian, I'm not really familiar with the Food and Drug Administration, so perhaps if you'd like to contact perhaps John directly, he may have a better idea. Drug master files, yes, right. I think John has quite a lot of experience with the regulatory and health industry, so he may be better positioned to help you out there. And I don't see any other questions, so I'll pass it back to, I'm sorry. Do you have transform to responsive HTML5? Not at this stage, but it's something we're investigating, so feel free to contact us and we'll keep you up to date with any developments. Okay, Tom, would you like to take it back?
Well, just before Tom comes in, I'd just like to thank Tom and Just Systems for hosting the webinar today, and also to extend my thanks to all of you for attending, and we look forward to helping you with your DITA publishing projects in the future. Tom?
Thank you, John, and thank you to Jeff and Tony as well for your assistance with the webinar today. We appreciate the opportunity to show everyone what TopLeaf can do, and thank you to all the attendees for taking your time today to listen to us, and look for a follow-up email very soon letting you know where you can download the recording of the webinar. And thanks very much, everyone, and hope you all have a great day.